Can I have your attention, please? We'll be starting up shortly. Good evening, and welcome to the Planning Board for Thursday, January 18th, 2018. Tonight we have two new matters on and a preliminary matter. The first matter is a definitive subdivision on 78 Westview Road. The applicant proposes to subdivide an existing 22,270 square foot lot and build out Clarendon Street to the extent necessary to access the second lot. The two lots will be in excess of 10,000 square feet apiece, and the new lot will have a single-family home of approximately 3,400 square feet. The applicant is seeking waivers for the required granite curb, street width, and sidewalk construction standards. The parcel is in the suburban single-family district. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. For the record, David Plunkett, representing Lowell, Mainville. And Tracy Mainville, the applicants on the petition before you tonight. Here at the meeting with me tonight is Roland Mainville, again, one of the owners and a developer, who would potentially be building out or would be building out the parcel. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, before I start, if I could put on the tripod plan showing an update, and also just to hand out to the board for their reference the revised plan, which is, it's still the same underlying plan as submitted, it just has some details that was in response to the comments issued by the Plan and Development.
Yes, Counsel, you may.
These are the same? Yeah. David Hagan.
Thank you. Thank you, Counsel. Counsel, can I ask you to put the tripod over where that screen is so the audience can see as well as the board? Thank you. This way the audience can see as well. Plus, that's a copy of what you just gave us in hand, Attorney Plunkett?
Yes.
Okay, so we can follow with here as well. So this way, hopefully the audience can see it as well. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and that's a copy of what we have in hand so we can follow along with that. Okay, thank you.
The subdivision it's a fairly simple plan. We had the preliminary hearing and approval of the preliminary plan several months ago. One of the conditions at that time was to get feedback from the engineers and other town officials, city officials in advance. So there was a little bit of a delay in terms of, but we worked closely with the Plan and Development. We met with the Ms. McCall and the engineer, the acting engineer, and then with the comments that we received, the plans were prepared to reflect the comments that they had, which resulted in the request for the waiver of the sidewalk construction, granite curb, and street width to comply with the recommendations of the city engineer. Other feedback, in terms of the fire department, planning and building department, that there were no negative comments. What we've added to the plan over what was submitted with the initial request for subdivision approval is just showing some data to address some of the questions on the comments, to show where a proposed house could go. The rendering that we gave to you is showing the house that Mr. Mainville has already built on the front lot. It's a very beautiful home, and this would be the same type of house that could be built on the back lot. Obviously, it would be dependent on, the circumstances. There's no absolute certainty that this is the house that's going, but it gives you an idea. It's consistent with the home that Mr. Mainville has built, and it should be pointed out that that's his home. That's where he lives. That's his residence at this time. So basically, Mr. Chairman, it's a matter that all the comments have been addressed relative to the layout of the proposed subdivision. It's on a way that, the owner of the property has the right of utilizing that streetway for purpose of build-out access, utilities, and things of that sort. So, again, with the single lot subdivision, it's a relatively minimal impact development. We have on the board, actually, can you change the, there was a question in terms of at the preliminary meeting relative to, the consistency in the neighborhood, and we have showing on that board that there are 5 types of very similar build-outs utilizing paper streets for access to lots that abut the ways. And so it would be very consistent with what's going on in the neighborhood, and it is consistent with the zoning ordinance in terms of there's no waivers relative to the size of the lot, where there's not having to go to ZBA for any type of variances or anything of that sort. It will be a compliant lot that will meet all the setbacks. And, we can't, Mr. Mainville will not be able to get a building permit until he files his request for a permit and shows with the actual structure to be built how it is going to be compliant with all of these requirements. But we're showing with this plan as submitted here today the potential to have a build-out just as similar to the house that's on the front lot. Again, the Mainvilles are very proud of how this home has come out. It's a beautiful home. Again, Roland was the builder, and said while he was building, people in the neighborhood going by waving, saying looks great, and very, very positive. He's had very positive feedback from other people in the immediate neighborhood. So, with that, Mr. Chairman, I think we've addressed all the issues relative to the fact that this is a build-out, a subdivision that's compliant with the ordinance. The only waivers requested are waivers that are requested to be consistent with the feedback from the engineer and other city authorities. And it's, again, it's going to be a very nice structure that will go up. It will be very consistent with what has been built on the front, and it'll be a nice addition to the neighborhood.
Anything further, Councilor?
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Could you just address, for the people who are present today, what you're going to do on Clarendon Street, how far it's going to go, where it's going to start, where it's going to stop,
Yep.
and whether it's going to cut through?
Yep. It's,
to the back street?
yeah, it would be a 20-foot wide way, and it would be coming straight off of Westview. I believe it's 5 feet off of the property line of the 78 Westview structure. And it'll go down to a point 130 feet from the intersection with Westview.
Thank you.
How close does it come to my shed?
Any further questions? Any further comments, Mr. Attorney Plunkett?
No, I have no other comments.
Okay.
Oh, I know, there's a story.
Okay. So at this point in time, I'll turn it over to the public to see if anybody here in favor of this project.
I have a question.
Okay, you can, okay. Each person will have a chance to come to the microphone, state their name and address for the record, and proceed from there, okay?
Yes, my name is Dennis Connors. My wife and I reside at 38 Westview Road. It's 2 or 3 lots down from the proposed subdivision. I come here tonight of my own accord in order to express my support of the petition. I'm familiar with the residence that Mr. Manville has already built, and from my valuation practice in Lowell, I'm familiar with prior projects that he has constructed in Lowell and the surrounding towns. I've always found his work to be of a high quality and well-designed. The current improvement that he's made on his personal residence represent an enhancement to the neighborhood, and I am confident that the proposed project will be of a similar quality. I therefore support the petition, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Les Canny. I live at 45 Lincoln Parkway, which is behind the proposed change. And I do like it's a beautiful house you built there. I walk my dog by there nearly every morning. I do have a question, though, and how close it is.
Sir, if you can address your questions towards us.
Oh,
and
I'm
then we'll-
sorry.
And we'll address them back to the applicant, okay?
Okay, I would like to know how close the paper road modification is going to come to my shed.
So do you own the shed that's on the end of?
I do.
Okay. Attorney Plunkett, can you answer that for the board, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just using the scale here, that's 10 feet. So it looks like it'd be about 10 feet off of the shed.
From behind, on the behind.
This here?
There's your scale, but this isn't a scale because this is not a full-size drawing.
Okay.
So from the end of the turnaround,
Yep,
you're about 30 feet from the corner of the proposed road to your backside of your shed.
okay,
And we're not proposing to go any further. It's not going to be a throughway.
right. And also, is all the activity in terms of sewer and all that, is that going to be on the Westview side?
That is correct.
So
Yes.
there's nothing on the Lincoln Parkway side?
That's correct, right, Mr. Plunkett?
No connection.
Everything goes
yeah,
to
the
Westview Road.
connection is down to the existing connection in Westview, so there's
Right.
nothing new.
So basically where you come in on Westview, when Clarendon, and you stop there, you'll have no further development from that line that's on this plan here, which if, Jordan, can you do me a favor? Can you flip that over? I'll have Jordan do it, he's right there. Do you mind, Jordan? Jordan, take care of it. Thank you, Jordan. So just so they'll look at the same plan we are, it will be where the dotted line is, so prior to the shed, everything would stop prior to the shed. How many feet do you say that was, Attorney Plunkett?
Approximately 30 feet.
Okay, so there'd be nothing from anywhere from that 30 feet going anywhere further. It would all be from that dotted line on the plan back towards Westview Road, and nothing further from that part on would be developed, correct?
Correct, Mr. I'm going to call you Your Honor, because it's going to elevate the judicial status here.
Thank you.
We should point out also that, the proposed location of the home the house to show why we only need to that point was done purposely to make certain that it didn't disturb the location of the shed.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mainville we understand people are busy, but he did try to get in touch with the abutter. We were thankful that he came here tonight. And, actually, we do have a petition where a number of the direct abutters all approved, saying, great, welcome to the neighborhood, good luck, and things of that sort, so. we just-
Yeah, just, Counselor, just to clarify, and I probably should have walked right up to the shed, but I just want to, for my own satisfaction here, clarify, I've got a picture of the shed. There are two large boulders. Are they going to stay there, or are they coming?
Actually going to ask that question.
Is it okay if I talk?
Sure, just come to the microphone if you would, and just identify yourself, sir, for the record.
My name's Roland Mainville, 78 Westview Road. There's a lot of stuff in that proposed roadway, because when we dug for our house, there were some boulders. We moved them to the side. The two boulders that you're talking about were there when we bought the place.
Looked like they were.
Yeah, they're not gonna stay there.
They're gonna stay there?
No, they need to
They're not.
move.
Okay, that's
They
what I
need
want
to
to
move.
clarify. Okay.
That'll be a clear way. The house to the left of us, I'm not sure the address, but it's Tony and Lucy. They're in favor. They've signed a petition. They're kind of grateful that we're taking down some trees, because we've had problems, even the short time I've been there, with power outages and not just branches, but trees falling off trees and landing in yards and corners of houses of that sort. So they're all for us getting rid of boulders.
Okay, I just want to, because again, those two boulders look like they were,
They've been there for a
they've
long time.
been there, and I
Yeah.
didn't know from a distance or whether or not they were coming out, so they are being removed.
They are.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And just to clarify, the water, sewer, and drainage come from top of the new proposed roadway going down towards Westview. Everything flows down to Westview into that manhole, down towards Pine Street.
Okay, thank you.
I did have one further question regarding the area between the shed and the proposed road. Are you going to clear that? Do you need to clear that area out, or how close do you need to clear? I mean, I don't care. You can.
We're not really gonna,
Well, there's a big boulder
Bowman,
there.
if you come to the microphone, please. Sir.
we're gonna, I don't know specifically what boulders or trees have to be moved, but I will assure you that when we're done, it would be a very pleasant way to go up there. It's not gonna be obtrusive. It will be, and we'll work with anybody in the neighborhood that wanna see that tree there or moved, or rock there or moved, and go over it with engineering and make sure that they're on board with it. That's one thing we've learned, is work with them, and things are usually good.
Very good. I will state that I'm in favor of the project.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, might I just, my omission from previously in terms of, Mr. Mainville did go out and try to meet people and talk to them, and we do have a petition for the home that's directly behind this development, abutting this property on Parkway. We have from the people on the left side of Clarendon Street who are very happy and thrilled about this, because they've got trees that are in danger of falling down on their property. And we have the house directly opposite this parcel on Westview property. And also, Mr. O'Connor came here tonight also, having signed the petition. So that was my oversight, if I could just.
Sure, could you
submit
pass
it.
it to Patrick there for staff, and he'll get it to us? Thank you. Thank you, Counsel. Patrick, once you have a chance to that, you can start giving it to Dick, and we'll pass it through. Once you have a chance to look it over, okay? All right. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, getting back, anybody else want to speak in regards to, in favor of the project at this time? Or if you have any questions? If not, I'll get to opposition in a minute. Did someone else want to speak in favor of the project? Was it? Anybody else in favor? In favor? In favor? Anybody want to speak in opposition? Or does anybody have any questions they want to speak?
Good evening. My name is William Nichols. I reside at 48 Rendell Park Drive. I object to the proposal based upon changing the character of the immediate neighborhood. There have been some attempts over the last couple of years to do similar types of things, and I just don't see it fitting in with the present structure of Westview Road. I also have a question from my own point of view as to where exactly does Clarendon Street start and where does it stop? The parcel that seems to be requested to have right-of-way to put this additional home in everybody seems to be calling it Clarendon Street. I don't see that listed on any city map. I don't know whether it is what's called a paper street, whether it's just a piece of land that is between Westview Road and Lincoln Parkway. But it isn't just that one piece. I think the proposal called to extend Clarendon Street. Every place I look on the map shows that Clarendon Street ends at Staple Street. With one exception, there appears to be a house built in the back of 120 Staple Street with a listed address of 55 Clarendon Street. There's also a house directly opposite it called 136 Staple Street, which is behind 140 Staple Street. There is no street there. There are two driveways. I looked up on the Register of Deeds listing, and there was a covenant given to those two properties at 136 Staples, which is set behind 140 Staples, and 55 Clarendon Street. A covenant was given in October of 2001, allowing those two particular homes to use the driveway or to share a private way with any abutters and successors and having total responsibility to maintain this. When I looked at the property the other day, it looks like just two private driveways going in off of Staple Streets to access 136 and 55 Clarendon Street. So here you have two houses that are opposite one another, yet one has an address of Staple Street and one has an address of Clarendon Street. I don't get that. Opposite the 78 Westview Road home, which was built, and I also agree with the nicety of the home. I have no issue with that. It looks like a nice property. But opposite them are two houses, 77 Westview Road and 55 Westview Road. They both have a small strip of property that is not with their existing properties that are taxed separately and are simply listed as land pieces. They appear to be strips of land that extend from whatever this street is that you want to call it, but they are owned by the people who reside at 77 and 55 Westview Road. So I can't agree with the terminology, I want to extend Clarendon Street. How can you extend it from Staple Street all the way through Lincoln Parkway? I say that from a point of view that I don't know that strip of land between Westview and Lincoln, what it's called, what its purpose is, I don't know. There does appear to be a shed on there from the diagrams. I don't know if that's the shed that's belonging to the gentleman that spoke earlier or not, but if so, that structure doesn't appear to be on anybody's land. I don't know if we're talking about a different shed. But those are my objections. I think putting a house in at 78 Westview Road behind that is simply going to change the character of single-family homes and residences. That particular address, 78 Westview Road, the original ranch that was there was built in 1956. The property at 62 Westview was built in 1951. Most of the other homes, the two on Lincoln Parkway, were built in 57 and 62. I've lived in the neighborhood all my life. I've played in these areas, Mount Pleasant, and I just don't see the character, is going to change tremendously if we allow something like this to happen. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bill Bailey, 8 Westview Drive. You're welcome. Mr. Chairman, before I start, I have a couple of documents here in opposition. One is for 25 Westview Road, and the other one is for the direct abutter at 88 Westview Road. If I could
Sure.
finish.
Submit those to Patrick if you would, he'll
Patrick,
get them to
sure.
us. Thank you.
And in attendance this evening, Mr. Chairman, we also have residents from 41, the Richards are here, and number 50, Mr. Vagatis, is also here in opposition. First thing I'd like to start with, Mr. Chairman, is I noticed on the definitive subdivision plan of land that was submitted, the 2 abutters that were documented on there, those aren't the current abutters. So I just want to make that a point of record. The other thing was, I believe the counselor this evening addressed, I'm going to assume, the technical submissions that I think at the preliminary subdivision was gone over, but I would just ask if those have been met. Regarding the paper street or the public way, I have some questions. Kind of to Mr. Nichols' point, has the city engineering department actually measured this public way? I haven't seen anything that told us what the actual measurements of the
He gave us comments. He didn't say in the comments whether he
Right.
actually went up and measured it.
Right.
I just go by the memo that he submitted to us, so I can't speak for him, but,
right.
So whether he went up and actually measured it, I don't know.
Correct. And I know his comments were in regards to the subdivision, preliminary subdivision review. The other thing is
Actually,
regarding,
this wouldn't be the preliminary, this would have been the definitive, because this was dated after the preliminary, his
Okay.
comments. Yeah.
okay, but he only commented on what's being proposed by the petitioner, correct?
Yes, sir, that's
Yep.
correct. Okay.
So that was one question I had as far as the actual public way or paper street. The other is, I guess this would be directed to the law department, and this would have to do with, what are the rights of all the abutters for this public way? I don't know if that's been explored. I know there's been a lot of casework on paper streets and how that's been handled by both the courts and municipalities. Something I haven't heard about is, and this is a concern of mine, would be the safety of where the access to the property is going into. I'm sure each of the members have been up there. That way is a wooded section, spring and summertime. I actually have some pictures that will show that it fills in pretty well. And whether someone is to leave the property, either driving straight out to Westview Road, or if they were backing out, I think the sight lines are a concern to me. As you know, there are no sidewalks on Westview Road, and I believe even the petitioner mentioned at the preliminary meeting, there's a lot of people that use Westview Road for walking. There's a lot of families, and there's also a lot of children. In fact, there's more and more younger families that have purchased property and are using the street to walk on. And with the sight lines, with the trees, and these aren't the trees that sit and abut 78 Westview Road, this would be the trees on the opposite side, and then the trees that actually line that whole way. So I think that's something the board should definitely focus in on. And speaking to the trees, Mr. Manville, I think, mentioned something about trees, but I don't know what the actual plan is, if there's any city trees are going to be removed. What's the plan to replace those? I know conservation, for instance, always has issues with the removal of trees. Property values, the attorney mentioned at the preliminary meeting that this would be a great project due to property values, that automatically everybody's property was going to increase in value just by putting up the existing home and adding the second one. Well, as far as the new home that's being proposed, and it's been mentioned a couple of times, that the valuation would be close to $600,000. Well, the city put together a sustainable Lowell 2025 plan, which I know this board was part of. And one of those objectives was the affordable housing piece. I honestly don't think a young family that wants to reside in Lowell and has young kids is looking for a piece of property, is looking for a $600,000 home. Obviously, I think the value proposition here is to the property owner, not the neighborhood. Regarding the new home that's being put up, I know there were some questions regarding, and I'll agree, the home that Mr. Manville has put up. It's a beautiful looking home. But the new home that's being proposed is literally 22 feet away. I think it was like 11.9 for the backyard distance, and the side yard requirement for the new home was another 10 feet, so it's literally right there. As far as the access, I know the city engineer wrote up a plan. It sounded like he wanted to call it a street. I'm a little confused how you can call it a street or really what the interpretation is, but I would assume that if this is approved, that a driveway permit and all the rules and regulations for access and egress from a public way would have to be met to have that access and approval. I did take a quick look at the subdivision regulations, and in one of the sections, Mr. Chairman, it talks about corner lots. Corner lots should be larger than interior lots to allow for more usable backyards. Well, I think if we take a look at the current home that's been built, and you look at that backyard, as I just mentioned, there's only like 12 feet. There's frontage and there's a substantial side yard, but as far as meeting the subdivision regulations, I don't see where that criteria has been met. So in summary, Mr. Chairman, obviously there isn't a lot of open space for residential construction in the city anymore. Building lots are at a premium. Westview Road and the neighborhood, I think Mr. Nichols even mentioned this, is basically built out. I know there's been other projects on Westview Road that have come before this board in the past. It seems to be an area where everybody's trying to get into, but the wisdom of the board, those proposals have been defeated in the past. And lastly, I'd just like to say that, I think we should just leave the public way the way it is. I think it creates a nice buffer zone in an already densely populated neighborhood. And I know the chairman mentioned, Mr. Nichols mentioned, I myself as a kid used that cut through many, many times. So I'd like to thank the chairman and the board for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak?
I'm Dennis Richards at 41 Westview Road. I oppose this project.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Jim Vergados, and I'm from 50 Westview Road. I'm 2 houses over from the proposed lot. And I'm in opposition of it because like somebody said earlier, it would affect the character of the street. Okay, so I oppose it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else? Council, I'll give you opportunity to discuss anything that was brought up by the public before I turn it over to the board members. Anything that you want to address in regards to any comments that were made by the public?
I don't think there's really any
I think one of the
major issue here. The fact is Clarendon Street is a paper street. We have a right of access, utilizing it as access to the property. This lot will be compliant with the zoning. We're not looking for variances, no need to go to the ZBA or anything of that sort. The only waivers are waivers to be compliant with the request of the city engineer, or the acting city engineer. And, you know, relative to impact of a single-family a home in an area, you know, in terms of, I mean, the board has dealt with traffic reports enough to know that, you know, a single family is not going to have a major impact. And it's still our feeling and belief that this will be a very nice addition to the neighborhood. It's going to be a first-class construction, and it'll be consistent with what Mr. Mainville has done previously.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this point in time, I'll turn it over to, excuse me, any of the board members who may have any comments? Sure, Rich?
I have a question relative to the build-out of Clarendon Street. Could you give a little definition of what you mean by that in terms of, are you gonna put any street trees there? Or what specifically are you gonna do there? And once it's done, who's responsible for maintaining it in the future until and if the city accepts it as a public way?
Well, consistent with the comments from the city engineer is that the engineer requested that there be a condition indicating that the developer would be responsible for maintaining until such time as it was turned over and accepted as a public way to the city. So it would be no different from any other subdivision approval, that the developer maintains, retains the responsibility to maintain and upkeep the build-out roadway until such time as completion, and then submittal to the city for purposes of acceptance as a public way.
And what about trees? You're gonna...
The trees will be, you know, there's going to be some trees that will be taken down, but, you know, again, yeah, the developer is very willing to work with engineering. We would accept the conditions saying that, you know, we'll work with engineering. There really has been input from the neighbor directly on the opposite side, who is, again, fearful because there are some very old, you know, old trees that are showing signs of decay, and they're worried about it falling on their home. But, you know, he'd be more than willing to work with the city and the engineering department, development, planning and development, to come up with whatever plan is necessary.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Any other board members have questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Malovich?
Did the city engineer give something in writing to DPD or anyone, or to you, saying these conditions that you want are acceptable to him? Because his November 29th said, his memo of November 29th said, the road shall be 20 feet wide from inside curb to curb. Granite curb shall be substituted with Cape Cod berm, and sidewalks are not necessary for this street.
And we received that memorandum from Christine McCall when she received it from the engineering, acting engineer, and at that point, there were revisions made to the plan before submittal of the definitive subdivision plan to address and incorporate those comments into the plan as submitted.
Okay, is this a public way? I could walk through, along this street and through, walk by the gentleman's shed if I wanted to, as a citizen?
I would say right now, in terms of a paper street, anyone with property rights on the plan that was originally developed back, I think, in like 1910 or something. I don't have the title in front of me, but you know, certainly they all have rights of access to and through and to utilize that street. That's why, as the owner of the property abutting the paper street, he has a right recognized, you know, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to utilize that as access to the property. There's specific statutory requirements, statutory provisions that, you know, specify that not only for ingress and egress, they also clarified to make certain by adoption of a statute that said that it can also be used for the purpose of laying down utilities and things of that sort, because at some point there was some question, okay, we understand ingress and egress, but what about when someone has to put in the sewer line, someone has to put in the electrical line, and there is a statute that specifically addressing the rights of the abutters to those paper streets to utilize it to the extent necessary in, you know, because it only makes sense, it would be necessary for that development that might come off of it, so.
Okay, so it is a public way of sorts.
It won't be a public way until such time as it's completed in accordance to the terms, you know, if our request is accepted, yeah.
After construction is done, it will be.
It will be the same, yeah, it will be the same process that the developer would have to then submit to the city, you know, a plan, final built-out plan showing compliance, and that it was all built out in accordance with the terms of the subdivision before the city would then act to accept it as a paper street until, accept it as a public way, but until that time, again, consistent with the comments, our expectation is that any approval would incorporate the language as suggested by the city engineer, indicating that it's the developer's obligation to maintain and upkeep until that situation occurs.
Okay. I would favor having no parking on that driveway at all for safety regulations.
On that road, yeah. Yeah,
Posted no parking.
Yeah, on Clarendon Street.
Work it out with DPD and the
Yeah.
police or whoever it takes.
Yeah.
The other question I had, you talked about street trees. The memo from DPD said, submit a landscape plan that includes street trees with minimum height of 8 feet along Clarendon Street, including specifying the type and spacing. That's probably between the roadway and your property line, I would assume.
I think it's the
You're not
opposite.
gonna put
I
it-
think it's on the Anthony side.
So
on
you're
the left
clearing
side.
all of the old growth
We're gonna
out of
clear all
it?
that out, and when we talk to the engineer, rather than coming up with a specific plan that will get changed, there's no way around it, is we want an approval with a condition, working with the engineering department to put the proper trees in the proper locations on the left side of that roadway.
So as, you know, Mr. Lockhart's suggestion was, you know, fine and expected, and there's no issue with that.
Yeah, I have a question for Patrick. Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust, Jane Calvin does a lot of street tree evaluation. Is it possible to get her to be out there looking at the trees and maybe tagging some that exist that could be left there while others are removed? Well,
we can obviously ask for her to coordinate if she's willing to do that, and obviously that it wouldn't interfere with the development.
yeah, that would be a helpful thing for all of you. Very good. Because she knows trees and knows what's alive and what's dying and what's appropriate for a street tree.
Sure.
Okay, that's all I have questions for now.
Thank you, Mr. Malovich. Any other board members have any questions? Mr. Snetsky?
Yes, I think we've already answered this, but I just want to reiterate. the engineer's memo of November 29th listing 7 conditions for the build-out of the street, and are you in agreement with and accept those as conditions of any permit?
Yes, yeah, anything that was submitted as comments, we've incorporated, and, again, there's no issue in terms of any of those such comments being incorporated as conditions of approval, because it's the intent to comply, and, we have no opposition to it.
Okay, as long as those are met, I have no other issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The comments from the city engineer and taking into account the discussion we had at the preliminary subdivision, I'm more inclined now to see the thoughts of the city engineer. We were looking at possibly having a walkway on one side of the street, and even to the point where some individuals had mentioned concern of neighborhood character. I think if we put a small street with a sidewalk and everything else, that will stand out like a sore thumb and not necessarily fit the neighborhood character. So I, in retrospect, look at this here, and I can see a little bit more value in what's being recommended here from the city engineer. Relative to subdivision control, the requirement is a lot size and frontage. All lots shall be of such size and dimensions and have frontage to meet or exceed the minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance of Lowell. Only one residential building may occupy each lot unless approval is given by the board. The lots that are presented, they're not pork chop lots, they're not a pie-shaped lot, they're rectangle lots that meet the full frontage in square footage of a Form A lot in the city of Lowell. From that perspective, that meets all of the requirements. We have, and even other larger projects, look at sight lines, and not to really, again, this is not a high-traffic generator, but I mean, I did take even photos. I have them with me here this evening. Even with, at this time of the year, there's just, looking up Westview Road towards Pine, there's really nothing on that side of the street that is really would block the view. And then looking back, there's one large tree that's really at the lot line of the other abutting property. So I certainly was comfortable with that. To the point of, it's interesting, looking at the trees there, and there are some mature trees, there are trees that I can see from the angles. I wouldn't be too happy about having those around, but obviously aesthetically, it is part of our responsibility in the subdivision approval process is to approve the plan with what we feel is appropriate for trees. I would, in the condition, and it had been mentioned by colleagues, that it would be subject to the satisfaction of DPD and the city engineer. And ultimately, if they can't come to satisfaction, they would come back to this board. I think it's a delicate balance because you want it to fit into the neighborhood. So you want to have, I don't think you want to just kind of clear cut all of that, but what's the proper street trees? Probably something that's not going to get too large, but will add some visual attractiveness to that. The fire department does not have any issue with the proposed subdivision. Again, the city engineer has clearly put very specific conditions, 7 conditions here. I do believe that the other suggested technical items that the memo included from DPD was was included in the revised plan. But ultimately, the applicant, or counsel for the applicant, made it very clear, we're not approving a home here this evening. We're not approving a style of a house. We're not approving how it's going to fit. What was pointed out here is there are specific requirements under the city zoning code. If a permit is pulled, and unless you want to apply for a variance, in order to receive a permit, you're going to have to comply with basically the items that are in this memo here in order to get your approval. Question, Patrick, because there was some mention of a bond, and again, this is unique because we're not building out a street to the extent that we're looking at sidewalks and granite curbs. But can I just get the department's views based on the recommendation by the engineering department relative to a bond? And the subdivision approval requires actually cost estimates, which we don't have. And again, it all ties into a bond. So I'm just curious as to DPD's.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of if the board feels that a bond is necessary, then that's fine. I think with what you said, the size of the subdivision and it being just one extra lot, I don't know if the engineering department felt like a bond was necessary. But the board would like that, we do have, the engineering office has kind of like a worksheet that basically develops what the bond would cost, factoring in the costs of the construction, and that can be obviously a condition of approval.
Would the applicant, I mean, because the street trees really aren't, we haven't finalized any of that at this point. The landscaping, it does even require, seeding. You do identify the snow storage, that was a question here. But obviously, that space has to be adequate for the snow storage as far as any kind of landscaping would go. I just, if we make a condition really kind of post approval as far as coming up with some cost estimate that appears to be reasonable.
Well, a couple of things in terms of, like, it is for all intents and purposes, a one-lot build-out, because you already have the house in front.
Right.
And what's the cost of the?
So there's a couple things that you guys can decide. $200 a square foot was the form from the engineering department that they go by, and it's 135 feet, so $26,000 was the number. So if you decide to take the bond, they don't require a bond until you get an occupancy on the house. Similar a subdivision I did a few years ago, there was a
Swan Street.
a couple of $100,000 bond, but what I was able to do was do a lot of the infrastructure and a lot of the work and use a lot of that money to build the road rather than put it up for a bond.
Right.
And then before I got occupancies for the house, we put up a minimal bond to finish the roadway. Willing to do whatever you think is right. It's my house, it will be finished, and I will not get a occupancy permit until it meets all the requirements and the road is accepted. So I'm gonna leave that up to you. If you need me to put up 26,000, that's okay too.
Yeah, I think I would phrase that in a way that, similar to what you just described Swan Street, especially on a smaller build-out like this, as long as the engineering department and DPD is satisfied with the work that's being done. Because the idea is although it's only one lot, I certainly don't want to minimize the fact that it is a home going behind another home. Yeah, absolutely. And if in fact the expectation is that we're looking at a situation where there is, I think, some care and being that is being taken to really not make that it's to be as least obtrusive as possible. So it really is trying to be a very low profile, in order to not really change the character of the neighborhood. I just want to make sure that that gets done properly. So if it's not done properly, the city has to go back and take that, you know, so.
Mr. Fischel, we fully understand and are in agreement of the need or intent of the city to protect itself and the neighborhood, to be assured that this is built out. Mr. Mainville has been involved in these projects before. We understand the ropes and know what you're looking to do, and we have no objection to it. We understand.
I think before occupancy is issued, that there should be a evaluation, and Joe Cady will do his sheet and say, you need to put up X amount of dollars until you're done.
Yep, no, that's fine. And again, Swan Street went very well. I think you made a believer in a lot of the people up there too that had issues, so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't have too many questions. I think most of them have been discussed. As indicated, you know, city engineer and traffic made his conditions a little different than what my recommendations were. At the preliminary, I suggested the sidewalks, I suggested the granite curb, and I said it would be up to the city department for the waiver on the street. He came back differently, but I thought the sidewalk would help. I know that Westview Road doesn't have sidewalks, but whenever we do a development, whenever we can add a sidewalk, think of the future development down the road, if they all entertain sidewalks, then it betters for safety for the public walking up and down the street, especially when you go down Westview Road, as we all know, it gets narrow in spots and then gets wide again. Obviously, I think a sidewalk helps any development, but that's my personal preference. But besides that, if the applicants want to go along with the conditions as requested by staff, then, and I would think that they could come up with the bond, depending on what the work they feel is necessary. And the main reason for the bond is, as it says, is that the work is guaranteed to the ability to maintain Clarendon Street for a period of 1 year until it's accepted by the city. So therefore, the applicant would be responsible for maintaining that area until it's accepted by the city. And then, Attorney Plunkett, you said you have no problems with either of the memorandums from staff. That December 28th is from Planning and Development, as well as from the...
Correct, Mr. Chairman. We've reviewed all the comments, tried to incorporate them as best as possible, and we have no opposition to anything that has been put forward by the city.
Okay. That answers my questions. Thank you. Any board members have any follow-up or any other questions?
I have a...
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. I think the amount of people that came out tonight, both in opposition and for this project, is a testament to what this gentleman said, that this is a very coveted neighborhood, and it's a coveted neighborhood for a reason. And the job of the planning board is not only to make sure that projects meet the city's standards, but to maintain the way neighborhoods are and what makes them successful. And I'm an associate member. I won't be voting tonight, but I'm confident that my colleagues will make the right vote.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. Any other board members have any follow-up? If not, what's the request of the board for the request for a subdivision? I mean, it's not here for site plan, it's not here for a special permit, so it's just a subdivision.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed subdivision with the following conditions. The applicant will post no parking on Clarendon Street, meeting the standards set by the city engineering department. Applicant will work with the, I should say, the applicant must construct the roadway incorporating the conditions set forth in the memo updated November 29th from the city engineer, Nick Bonaccetto. That engineer's memo was from November 29th, 7 conditions, specific conditions, which was the roadway width, 20 feet, the waiver of the granite curbing, the waiver of the sidewalks, 2 catch basins shall be tied into the sewer manhole in Westview Road. No infiltration system is needed. Applicant shall have system designed adequately to handle stormwater as dictated by LRWWU. Number 5, the proposed sewer cleanout shall be 4 to 6 inches in diameter. Sewer pipe located on the private property. A sewer manhole is not necessary as shown in Clarendon Street. The sewer line needs to be built to LRWWU specifications and tie into the sewer line on Westview Road. Number 6, permanent bounds must be installed as part of the roadway construction. Number 7, final as-built plans of the roadway must be submitted by applicant to the city engineer's office along with documentation for public acceptance. Also, the applicant will work with DPD and the city's engineering department to post a bond as deemed appropriate by the city departments. Also, the applicant will work with DPD and the city engineering department to finalize a landscaping plan to be incorporated into the subdivision proposed here this evening, subject to satisfaction, meeting the satisfactory requirement of DPD in the city engineering department. And also, although I just want to make sure that conditions, the comments from the planning department and the memo of December 28th, Patrick, I'm just looking at this here. If I'm looking at this, most of these were more to the technical requirements of the plan here. And then I think we incorporated the landscaping and the bond, but we obviously gave some flexibility to DPD. Is there anything in here that we're missing other than, and I believe this would be a standard, the applicant shall install erosion sediment controls prior to the commencement of any site work and shall maintain during construction stockpiles should be surrounded on their perimeters and stake siltation fences. I believe that's a standard anyways before they would, is there anything in here that I'm missing that, okay. If there are any outstanding, yeah, yeah. No, and again, just to incorporate the memo is, again, the applicant will work with DPD to satisfy any concerns that DPD may have as a result of the build-out on the subdivision. Again, I think we covered everything in that memo, but just, and I think the applicant is very much aware of what the concerns were.
Okay, so we have a
Second the motion.
motion's made and second by Mr. Lockhart. All in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, the subdivision plan is approved. Thank you, good luck.
Thank you
Thank
very
you all for
much.
coming down, appreciate it. I will give this back to- Yes, please, okay? Patrick, I'm gonna give you that, if you keep that. Oh, Les Canning. I will give you that, that was tonight. And I'm gonna give you, didn't want to. Sure, so right ahead. Yeah, it is one.
That's really weird, because all I do is work and walk my dogs. So, anyway. No, I have a lesson. Like, oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been, my wife passed away. Right.
I'm not sure.
We're moving along to the next matter on the agenda.
That doesn't show who the attendee is. Next one is Lowell Street.
The next matter will be the site plan review and a special permit for 39 Myrtle Street. An application was submitted by Reno Properties LLC. Excuse me. Let me start over again. Site plan review and special permit, 39 Myrtle Street. An application was submitted by Reno Properties LLC to amend an existing special permit and site plan review approval from the planning board to add 9 more residential dwelling units into the building of the above address. The existing parcel is 47,600 square feet and has a 3-story building of approximately 32,000 square feet. The parcel is located in traditional 2-family zoning district and requires special permit approval and site plan review from the planning board under section 8.1 and 11.4, as well as approval for any other relief as required by the Lowell zoning ordinance. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, just briefly, before we commence, I will be recusing myself from this
So,
matter. Thank you.
So therefore, Jordan, you'll be able to vote this evening on this matter, because Mr. Fischett will not. Okay. So just going back, looking at our previous notes, wow. We approved this how long ago?
2000, this was approved in 2013.
Okay, wow, thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Attorney George Theodore, 133 Market Street, representing the petitioner, Reno Properties. This is sort of a unique application in that we are reviving an application that had site plan approval on September 5th, 2013, in which the planning board at that time originally approved the site plan review to convert the former Varnum School into 21 residential units. This was done, put out by the City of Lowell as a request for proposal at the time, and Underwood Properties was the winning bidder and developed the property, and seeked approval from this board and developed it into 21 residential units and fit in with the on-site parking at the time of 42 spaces. At that time, there's, with the development funds that they had to renovate or convert, this was a conversion of a building, the funds that were used to convert the residential structures were not available to go ahead and use to convert what was an existing gym into any residential units. They could only use funds to restore the gym as a gym, which was which was not economically feasible for the developer at that time. Now, just to give you, there's a photograph that we put there of the gym to give you an idea of the scale of the gym. It is approximately 60 by 80 feet, and the ceilings are approximately 35 feet, which is probably a little higher than the ceilings that are in here, to give you a scale of what that gym, which sits on the 3rd floor on the top of that building with the beautiful atrium windows that are around. So, given the fact that that was not done at the time, and along comes my client, Mr. Reno, who's looking to purchase the property and to develop this and to add units, 6 units in the gym and 3 units in the basement. Mr. Reno is an experienced developer. He owns 8 properties in this area of Lowell, and which includes approximately 40 units that he owns and manages right now. Now, these units are going to be 1-bedroom units. We have copies of proposed plans. The units that they propose to put into the gymnasium are going to be loft-style units of approximately 1,200 square feet, and the 3 units in the basement are approximately 1,000 square feet. These 1-bedroom units, they're seeking to put in there in this area of Lowell some high-quality units. And at the same time, by doing this, they look to go ahead and
to add some other features to the property to enhance the existing landscaping. There's a perimeter area of a little brim of landscaping there that can be enhanced. Some more trees can be planted. Certainly along one side where it abuts a residential neighborhood, some sufficient screening could be done there. As well as they're going to do a new fence, which will be along Myrtle Street and Beach Street. Right now, there's a wrought iron fence there. I think something more suitable to enhance the property and have the perimeter of the property stand out, as well as putting in some exterior lighting. Exterior lighting in the property will shoot up from the ground up, which would enhance the visual of this building. It's a grand old building in this school, something that you really could not replicate with today's funds. And to go ahead and do that and have some of the lighting from the ground up, so at the same time it enhances the structure and doesn't bother the neighbors. And also what is proposed that he would do is to put in security cameras on the four corners of the building. These are the circular type of security cameras which would have a wide range in the area of the building. That could be connected to the police department, and certainly also that he would go ahead and connect to the neighborhood association. So by doing this and building out these high-quality one-bedroom units, what he's looking to do is to improve the health, safety, and welfare of this community over here. This is a unique area in that it's a short walk to the Bridge Street corridor, which is kind of a good mix, the residential commercial mix up and down the Bridge Street corridor, which which these new tenants can patronize the businesses there. And also this area here is a short walk to downtown. These will probably be, if this is allowed, some of the newer and nicest units in this area. Now, there's no question about this. You know, we're not touching anything of the existing structure. The existing structure stays as it is. It's redeveloping the interior of this gym, which, as I said, about 60 by 80. If you could picture this hallway here, 60 by 80, about 35 feet high, and also a basement. The part that is a challenge on this, which is somewhat where we're coming into this board and asking for a great deal of relief. We're doing it, we're not just asking for the relief, but we're also providing something to the city. We're also providing something to the community at the same time by building these quality units. We're in adding this value to this structure. And the incredible relief that we're looking for and asking for the wisdom of the board to do is the parking. 9 units require 18 parking spaces. We're not building this structure from the ground up. This is a pre-existing structure. We don't have the ability to build it from the ground up and place any additional parking there. So in a sense, we're going there on a pre-approved project that this board has taken a look at and approved for those units in 2013. We're looking to redevelop that property once again, reinvest funds in it once again. Funds into this building are funds into the community. And the only way this can happen is by the input of this board and seeing the value and the quality of this project. And we have provided you with a parking study. And what we did is we took the photographs of the parking at 6:45 in the morning and also at 7:45 at night. And we've gone ahead and taken pictures of the parking along Myrtle Street, along 6th, and along Beach Street. Now, Myrtle Street itself, this is around the perimeter of the structure here. Myrtle Street itself is 240 feet. That's the frontage on Myrtle Street. And there's a cutout there for our entrance into the parking lot, which is 20 feet. Now, this 240 feet, if we consider under regulations for the length of a car, we could easily park 10 cars there. And you can see each of those times in the morning and in the afternoon, there are no cars parked there. I visited the site many times, and it's just amazing to me of the abundance of this off-street parking that's there.
And I understand that this isn't a criteria that the board has in the ordinance that it can use to satisfy parking. And that's why we're asking for the board to consider this and take a look at our parking study. And so we have 240 feet along Myrtle Street, then we have another 200 feet along 6th. 6th, again, that could accommodate easily 10 cars or comfortably 5 cars. And then you look again at the 240 feet on the other side along Beach Street. Well, that again can accommodate approximately 10 cars. So for what we're looking for here for 18 cars can easily be accommodated by the existing off-street parking without being a burden to this community. This space here, for whatever reason, this perimeter of this space here is not utilized by any other residents for parking. At the same time, we gave you the information that we have from the existing owner that talks about the parking that they currently have. Which is in our narrative there, and right now, with the number of units, there are 15 available spaces that are not leased and not utilized. Now, I fully understand there's 15 available spaces today, right now, that are underutilized. In the historic use of this building over the last 5 years, that has been the case. That can change next week, that can change next month, that can change next year. So that may not always be the case. However, as it exists right now, those 15 spaces exist, but at the present time, that abundant amount of off-street parking exists. Prior to go ahead and starting on this investment for this project, Mr. Reno went to the neighborhood. He realized how valuable and how important it would be for him to have input from the neighborhood. And so he went to the neighborhood and he met with the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group. You have in with your materials 2 letters, one dated December 6th, 2017, and another dated January 2nd, 2018. And the executive member of the board, Anne Marie Page, she's one of the signatories of the December 6th letter, indicates that the officers and members of the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group met with Mr. Reno of Reno Properties on his plan to purchase the Varnum School on 6th Street here in Centerville. Mr. Reno answered many questions, came as a guest speaker to our November 2017 CNAG answered more questions as to his purchase of the Varnum School. I go to the next to last paragraph. Neighbors were pleased to hear that the appearance of the property would be updated as to the grounds, along with better lighting and security cameras. We seem to be confident that since Mr. Reno has purchased and updated other properties in this area, he will continue to improve the area with his plans. We hope the city will be able to work with Mr. Reno and his plans for our neighborhood. And what we also have is another letter dated January 2nd, 2018. I specifically call out to the second paragraph in which it's stated in this letter, we here at the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group are in support of Mr. Reno, and we do not see any parking issues. So this community action group, a number of them live in this area. They are delighted to find out that there will be additional investment put into this building, that we will light up the building, that we'll place the security cameras in there, which will be able to pan the whole area, which we'll be able to use at the regular Centerville Action Group meetings. They do not see that any of the parking issues over there would be a burden and overburden the neighborhood. So in considering this application, it really comes down to if this investment and the addition of these units here, these single one-bedroom units, which are going to be 6 in the gym and 6 in the basement, and if it can't be able to be done, that space that exists in there, and you can see the depth of that, and you can imagine what some of the views are from up there into the downtown, If it can't be developed, then it would unfortunately have to be left in this manner, and that would be a shame. Be a shame for Mr. Reno, be a shame for the current owners. So, that being said, I'd ask the board to keep an open mind on this and to consider this application. So we'll be available to answer any questions you may have.
Counselor, do you need relief from the ZBA as well, or just from us?
We do. We're asking for relief from the ZBA. The prior application, which was allowed before the board, because it met under the specific section, I believe is 8.1.
Right.
Point 3, because it met the parking requirements there, they didn't have to go before the board for open space or for lot area per dwelling unit. Since we do not meet the parking on this, we have to go before the ZBA, which we have filed for Monday, again, to go for parking, to ask for lot area per dwelling unit, which affects this right now, and also for open space requirements.
Okay, so okay. So those three matters are going before the ZBA next Monday?
This Monday.
Oh, this
yes.
Monday coming up, okay, all right, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Counselor, if you have nothing further to add, I'll turn it over to the public at this time, okay? Anybody here this evening want to speak in regards to this project, either in favor or against? Anybody here in favor or against? Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is James Fisher. I live at 38 Myrtle Street, property right across from 39 Myrtle Street. I've been there for approximately 21 years, raised 4 sons there. And I've seen a change in our neighborhood over the years. My particular property is at the corner of 5th and Myrtle Street. And then we have another street that intersects with Myrtle Street, 4th Street, and the parking that's in front of 39 Myrtle Street on both sides of the street is considered an overflow parking for the neighborhood. Most of the houses are 2-family on Myrtle Street, 5th Street, and 4th Street. And when we have snowstorms of 8, 10, 12 inches of snow, the snow banks are piled so high in front of houses that people will circle in the neighborhood to find parking spaces. And they usually park up on the overflow parking area, which is what we refer to it as. At one time, the city used to let us park in a school parking lot so they could clear the streets good, but we don't have that option no more. And during the summertime, when people are out and about visiting their family and friends more often than they do in the colder months, they respect the neighborhood houses and they don't park in front. The owners tell them, you know, when you come over, park up the street right there by the school on either side. And for the most part, that works out well. And the school department, the Reno Development put in 21 units, or is it 24 units? I don't know what it was. But the planning board and the zoning board both said, this is what you get. We have a growing neighborhood here. Every household has a minimum of at least 2 cars on these houses, on these side streets and on Myrtle Street. Kids have grown up, my kids have grown up, they've got cars now. So we need to have that space. It's not like being on 6th Street or 3rd Street, where you got the whole line of street. And then you got, you know, a parking lot down further, down below on 4th and 3rd and 5th Street, where when St. Michael's is out of school, they park all around the school. We don't have too many options in my particular space, and I'm referring to Myrtle Street. And we have, our spots in front of our own houses at times taken, not just myself, other homeowners, renters that have been there for years. And I'm looking to save that. Now, I'm sure they're doing a great job with the school over there, but, you know, they had their say. They bought the building. They knew what they could put in. They knew what the limit was. And now we're back almost 4 years later trying to get something slipped into the back door. And then once they get these 9 units, a couple more years down the road, they're going to want to slip into more to fill the rest of the basement up. So, you know, there has to be a stop. It's a 2-family neighborhood. Now we got this big school that has families in them or single individuals. And that's fine. I mean, there's no problem right now the way it is. When we have big snowstorms, the city bus route is 3rd Street, Beach Street, up 6th Street. When the snowbanks and the snow get so bad, the city bus has to detour back down to Myrtle Street, and it takes Myrtle Street, because it's a wide street, takes Myrtle Street to 6th Street and back up the hill, catches the rest of their bus route. Now, they're also talking about putting the units, 6 of them, up into the gym area. I don't know if anybody here has been up to the gym area. It's a beautiful area. It's got a stage in there, and
They showed us a picture, because I haven't been in the gym, but at least we got a picture.
It's a beautiful space. But unfortunately, it cannot be utilized for any more additional units. Neither the gym space or the basement. They could take the gym space and make it a community space for all their tenants. That'd be a great thing. There's no yard for the kids to play there, so why not? And last but not least, you know, there's 2 main components missing out of that 3rd floor. And they were there for a reason. Was the fire escapes. They were there, one on each side of that building. And they were taken down when they did their rehab there. But they couldn't take out the doors on the 3rd floor because the I'll get it.
Plum, take your time, sir.
But they wouldn't let them take out the doors because it would change the outside appearance. And so the doors were left there. Now you want to stick 6 units up there, possibly endangering our first responders if there was ever a major fire there, and possibly have somebody die up on the 3rd floor in the fire. I mean, from what I know is the egress comes up the front. There could be a little tunnel going from one 3rd floor building to another. I don't know. But I'm sure those fire escapes were put there for a reason. And now they're not there. Now they want to put in 6 units. Now, that building was built in the 1800s, I believe. We have mills all over this city. They had to follow every stringent rule from the planning board, the zoning board, to have all their parking on site. I took a ride on Broadway today. Lowell Fruit, behind Lowell Fruit there's an elderly complex. They've got all their additional parking for the staff, for the occupants, and for visitors, all off-street parking. There's a school up here in Centerville that was bought, sold, and it was done over and put into 2 or 3 condo units. They did a beautiful job, 59 10th Street. This was done some years ago. They've got all their off-street parking. They're not coming back for no zoning, no planning, so they could add. They could add. Their ceilings are probably to the top of that rail right there in that balcony. Beautiful place. They've done a great job. You got another old building on Broadway, 430 Broadway Street, so old mill building. They've met all the requirements to have all their parking for their tenants and for any guests that may stop in. And if there's not enough room for all the guests, they got parking out front. But adding more units and cluttering a two-family neighborhood, knowing that 4th and 5th Street utilize that spot, and sometimes the hospital, we have a hospital opposite corner of Myrtle and 6th Street, at the opposite corner of where the Varnum School is. And sometimes their workers park there. And sometimes even their visitors park there. Now, they went out and took pictures early in the morning, sure. They went out and took, why don't they do it in the summertime? Why don't they do it when there's a big snowstorm after the city plows? You know, you'll find cars there. We need that space. We don't need any more clutter there. It's a two-family neighborhood. We'd like to keep it just the way it is right now. They said they were going to plant trees and shrubs. They planted their trees and shrubs. 3 or 4 of them died. They never got put back in. They said they were going to put lighting in the fence up at the beginning. That's never got done. Now they're saying they're going to fluff and buff the whole outside of that building. There's 2 lights on a pole there that flash into that schoolyard. And I don't even know if the city taxpayers are still paying for these lights. Those are the only lights that reflect into that schoolyard. How they got away with not putting lights around their building is beyond me. I know Mr. Underwood. He knows my kids. He had some of my kids working over at the school building with him when he was rehabbing the building. I'm not here to make enemies with him or anybody else who owns that property. I'm here defending my neighborhood. Now, the Centerville Association, whatever they call themselves, they haven't invited the immediate people who live right around that property to the meeting with LLC here to hear their story. They would have got a different answer from the immediate people in the neighborhood. I'm just a guy trying to protect my neighborhood and trying to keep it the same way. And I hope the zoning board and the planning board look at this and do what's right. I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else? Yes, just up the microphone, sir, and give your name and address.
Sorry?
Just give your name and address, please, yeah.
Yes, Charles Hartnett, 88 Fifth Street. Thank you very much for letting me be here. Very concerned about my neighborhood. Good to my neighbors. I do a lot of shoveling and take care of the sidewalks and things like that, so I believe in quality of life. I think that's what I'm trying to present here. And with all respect to the gentleman, I know Mr. Underwood, fine man, and these gentlemen introduced themselves. I just want them to be aware that, yes, they did a good job, trying to take pictures and showing what the parking situation is, but we also have a traffic situation. That area should be policed more often, and more cars in that parking lot would exacerbate a really bad situation. I've seen a number of accidents on that road, and to speak to Mr. Fisher's concerns, the parking is not a pristine spot. It's not an empty street. It's fully parked on many, many occasions. And I was out shoveling the other day. I couldn't even remove snow that was being plowed into my driveway because the plow operator was so frustrated that there were cars parked at the corner right in front of my driveway. He couldn't do anything to remove anything from my driveway. So I was shoveling out to the middle of the street. And I've done that many, many snowstorms. So I just want to belabor, I don't want to belabor anything, and these are fine gentlemen, they've introduced themselves. But I hope you people will look at how the impact is going to be, how severe it will be, and how severe it's been the last few years. Traffic, safety, congestion, quality of life. And I just hope that you people will give my view and my neighbor's view some consideration. It's not monetary, we're not benefiting from it. We have faith in our neighbors and our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, at this point in time, I'll turn it over to any of the board members' comments. Any
comment?
Yes, Mr. Lockhart?
The parking on the street, I'm having difficulty accepting that as a viable alternative. We're in a residential neighborhood here. I live up on top of this hill up on Beacon Street, and I go by there a lot. I have an issue with parking on the street to support this development. I love the development. I like what's done to the Varnum School, but I think we have to look closer at the parking and try to accommodate what we can on that the site and maximize it to the best of our ability.
Yeah, we looked carefully at the off-street parking, and I certainly understand your concern.
It's a residential area, and residents need that space.
From Mr. Reno, who owns property, who has 6 units on Fifth Street, and he's in that area quite a bit, and that's what drew him to this property. And it was just fascinating to him to see that area from 6th Street, Myrtle Street, and Beach Street that was open with parking, that the parking, and another thing that you would be familiar in going up 6th Street, that Myrtle Street is a very wide street.
Yes, it is.
It's a very wide street, and that's another factor here that, he looked at it, that accessing through out of Myrtle Street onto 6th down to Bridge Street, again, looked like it was, to us, a nice, easy traffic in and out from that property. We did go through the neighborhood to try to find other areas there to park, and we weren't successful. There was a public lot down at the bottom of Bridge Street and 6th. It's a public lot. There's just a handful of spaces in there, and those spaces are primarily used by people who go ahead and utilize that lot to use the businesses there and patronize the businesses. So that's one thing that we weren't successful with. The only thing that we could find, there wasn't a private property owner that had enough space to accommodate this. The only thing that we could find is to make the determination, and as a last resort, to present this off-street parking.
Understood. Yeah. I guess I'm just generally not in favor of supporting development with street parking.
It's not something that, been coming to the board and presenting applications. It's not something that I would normally want to put in an application and request as some kind of relief.
Oh, I understand where you're coming from. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Any other board members? Mr. Snetsky?
Yes, I'm somewhat familiar with that building. I remember it as the old Varnum School. In fact, while the new greenhouse was being built, my wife taught at that school, so I had helped her move into it, and it was really in quite disrepair, and I know it's a pre-Civil War building, and, you know, it's nice to see that building preserved. Actually, a couple of years ago, on the Open Doors Lowell program, there was a tour going on there, and I saw the property at that time, and it was still under development at that time, but it was nice to see a building of that nature preserved. So I think it's a great reuse of the building. And under normal circumstances, you know, I'm a stickler on parking regulations. But the thing that sways me in favor of this particular project is the endorsement of the Centerville Neighborhood Association. I know that they are extremely active and diligent and in protective of their neighborhood. And when I see a hearty endorsement by that group, and in particular, when I see Anne Marie Page's name on that, you know, I've got a better feeling of it being a good thing for the neighborhood. So on that basis, and again, it's kind of against my normal nature in terms of making major concessions on parking. But in this particular case, for all of the reasons that I've mentioned, and in particular, the endorsement by the Neighborhood Association, I'd be prepared to support it.
Thank you.
Mr. Malovich, any questions, comments?
I don't really have any questions, but I have comments. You know, parking first hit me as an issue, but in seeing what you had done for an analysis and knowing the width of that street, Myrtle Street, and the lack of use around the school building, maybe it's people are creatures of habit because it was once a school and no one could park there, so they found other places to go. This is an existing pre-Civil War building. It's not a new construction. There's very little you can do to save this and use it appropriately when we've grown into such a country of parking and car owners. I think that there has to be some consideration here for the reduction on the requirement for parking. At least I can see that. I'm kind of leaning toward experimenting with this site and see what the fallout would be. I even thought about the width of Myrtle Street. Is it possible, maybe the DPD could do an analysis of the school side of the street, restripe the street, and do angle parking? You could almost get 2 cars per one space on Myrtle Street. It's possible, and I can see what would become of that kind of analysis. Other than that, I would like to see this building continue to support itself. So, you know, right now I'm leaning towards supporting it.
Thank you, Mr. Malovich. Mr. Guys?
Yeah, I have a quick question and then follow up some comments. The question is, and it's already been said, but for the sake of the public and those here today, exactly how many units are you going to have within the building?
This is a request to add 6 units to the gym and 3 units to the basement. There are 9 units.
1,000 square feet each?
The lofts in the gym will be 1,200 square feet each.
Okay.
And the basement units will be 1,000 square feet each.
And I hate to sound like a parrot here and reiterate what all my colleagues have mentioned, but parking is the biggest con. Street parking is very unusual for a planning board to approve moving forward with something like that. But there are so many pros that I think outweigh the cons. The fact that you guys are willing to to keep the lighting and even increase it, the cameras, and to respect the historical nature of the building is incredibly important to me, and I think I speak for my colleagues as well when I say that. So at this point, I would be comfortable moving forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just have a couple comments. Obviously, the parking is the main concern. Obviously, we do have a letter from the Neighbors Association, but we do have the people who live, I mean, Mr. Fisher lives right across the street. I think it impacts him more than it would anybody else who wrote this letter. I mean, let's face it, he's the guy who's gonna be affected. I mean, he's right there.
Mr. Chairman, could I just comment? He did say he lives on Fifth Street. Fifth.
Below.
Yeah, that's about.
Yeah, well, but the other gentleman lives on 38.
Is the other?
That's this guy. That's the, yeah. That's what I'm talking about, right, yeah. What's your last name? Yeah, that's right, Mr. Fisher, yeah, he lives on 38. I got it right then, okay. So he's, if you're 39, he's 38, that must be right across the street. Okay. So I mean, yeah, so he's on Fifth, I got him, yeah, he's on Fifth and Myrtle, and I had Mr. Fisher on 88 Fifth Street is what I wrote, right? I had you at 88 Fifth Street, did I write that one down? Yeah, okay. So I understand some of his concerns, I mean,
Could I add more to my comment?
in a second, okay? Okay, yeah, if you would, go ahead. I mean, you know, we're trying to balance things out here, and I understand where you being the director butter, you have some concerns, yeah.
The Centerville Association does not have a member that lives in the immediate area of the Varnum School or 38 Myrtle Street. There's not a member. They live mainly across Bridge Street on the west side. They don't know what's happening in my little neighborhood as far as parking. The Beach Street side for parking is all taken up. My side, the Myrtle Street side, as I said, families have grown, there's more cars to the families as well as business vehicles. Now, the board, I can sense already, is leaning towards okay and approving this, saying screw the taxpayer. Screw the guy who's been there 21 years. And the other homeowners and property owners. These guys come in, buy the building for $100,000. They make the insides look good, can't touch the outside because the Historic Society won't let them, and it looks good enough anyway. The parking that we need for my side of the neighborhood comes in the wintertime and in the summertime. When the school was there, it didn't matter. Everybody was going to work in the morning, the teachers came in, the parents dropped their kids off, the buses came, no conflict. Now there's going to be a conflict. Approving 9 units, that's at least a car and a half per unit. They don't have the space in their yard, in their lot, to accommodate that. Why is it? Because it's a good project. Of course it's a good project. Anybody would love to have that piece of property, but somewhere else. It doesn't fit into this two-family neighborhood. 21 units they have already. What are we gonna do? Fill that up to 42, 43 spaces eventually? Because they're nice people? Because they put a few lights out or a couple of more trees? What does that do to the property owners around there? What do I tell my friends or family when they come over for a function, a birthday party, a wedding, or whatever, well, you're gonna have to go find the city parking lot to park your car and take an Uber up here back to my house. And the same with the people on 4th Street and 5th Street. Now, if any of you people live in Centerville and live up on the hill, then you're all right up here. Or if you live on the opposite end of Myrtle Street, you're all right down there. You got bigger houses, bigger land, bigger driveways. They can accommodate all that. This part of Myrtle Street, unfortunately, for these LLC group here, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I'd be very, very disappointed if I see them get a change in whatever they want to accommodate them. It's not fair. You voted the first time around, and we're back here again, and now you're ready to give them the okay. So in a couple of more years, they're going to be coming, saying we want to make some more changes. And what are you going to do? You're going to sit here, you're going to listen to guys like me, a woman like me, whining, if you want to call it, or being somebody who's against change, and I'm not against change. Come here and go through this same grind, and then the next thing you know, the place is filled up. We got cars parked, nowhere to park. The idea is to think ahead, not push ahead and then say, oh, a year or two later, oh, we made a mistake. Can't undo it now. It's all about money right now. It's all about getting more money to have more units in there. Again, they knew it was a two-family neighborhood. The zoning board knew it was a two-family neighborhood. The planning board knew it was a two-family neighborhood. They have the parking that was set up by the planning and zoning board. They got their parking in their lot. That's as far as they can go. I can't say any more or reiterate anything more. But I hope you reconsider everything that's being said. I'm not an attorney. I don't have the money for an attorney. I'm one guy right now. And this is not right. I hear all the patronage going on. It seems to me that decisions have already been made before I even walked up to this microphone. I thank you again for your time, gentlemen.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Chairman Linehan, could I have Mr. Underwood, who's the current owner of the property? He has a few things to say.
Sure.
Thank you, guys. Richard Underwood, 45 Buttman Road. I'm current owner of the building. So first of all, I love that building. I put my heart and soul into that building, and it's not just about finances, but I can tell you the property values of the houses around that school now are far greater than they were before. That building stayed vacant for over 7 years when we bought it. I can also tell you that what we get by with right now squeaks by. And if the residents of that, and it's no threat, it squeaks by. We have 21 units in that building right now, but we originally were going to use that gymnasium as units. The historic tax guidelines stopped us from doing that. So what we did was we had to go around that building and find other usage of rooms. So out of those 42 parking spots we have there, we actually have 3 studios in there. So, I mean, a studio, so that's only 3 extra cars, again, but to address the fire escapes, I know we spoke to that, and there's no hard feelings with Mr. Fisher. I love Mr. Fisher and his family. They've been nothing but good to us all through that project. So one way or the other, I respect Mr. Fisher and whatever. But that building needs this, to keep that building long-term and going, and to put the extra money, it needs more value added to it. It's just not going to last, whether I own it or we give it up one way or the other. there needs to be more money in there, the fence, the lighting, the cameras and stuff like those. Those are all things we wanted to do and continue to want to do, but we squeak by on that building. So, you know, again, I'm hoping it goes through. If it doesn't, we'll continue to keep the building up. We'll continue to do what we do over there. We have 27 parking spots there. I've never, ever, on Christmas, whatever, I've never seen my parking lot filled. On storm days and snow days, matter of fact, some of the tenants that live across the street park in there so that they can clear their driveways and stuff like that. From Mr. Fisher's house on to the corner of 6th Street, I've been there 3 years now. I never see cars there. Right now, we've had one of the, well, not a big snowstorm, but there was significant snowbanks there in the last couple of weeks. There was one car parked from the edge of my driveway going down towards 3rd Street, but that whole side of that street is always empty. I don't think 6th Street is a vital spot to park, but there is Beach Street. But again, we also had parking in our first plan for parking on the side of that building we did not utilize. So if they wanted to rearrange that, we could actually get more on-site parking also. It would be a good thing for they may not feel it now, but it would be important for that neighborhood to allow this to go by, add some more value to that building so that we can continue to, whether it's myself or a new owner, continue to do the things that that building really needs. And in order to do that, it needs to make income. It pays the mortgage now, it pays the bills, but that's it. So one way or the other, whether it's today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, there has to be something added to that building or it's just not going to survive. It'll end up vacant again, and you know, that's the truth. The numbers speak for themselves in that building. There's 21 units. We put $3 million into that. There is no value coming back to Underwood Properties. We bought it from the city at $300,000. We put almost $2.7 million into it. We're selling it for almost that. We're giving it to somebody with new blood because I do love that building. I don't have the time. I took a new job recently, 2 years ago. That building takes a lot of time. It bothers me when I drive by it and I see the dead tree or the this and that. And you know, it takes time, it takes caring, it takes love for that building. I don't have the time for it. So when the offer came to sell it, you know, I hemmed and hawed about it, and I said, well, we'll do it. But there is no great big money on that to Mr. Fisher. The Underwood Properties are not walking away. Although we did buy the building very cheap, we bought it very cheap because it needed a lot of work. And that's why it stayed there for 7 years. That's why it was vacant. And if there isn't some type of units put into that building, whether it's in 3rd floor, 2nd floor, whatever, it's a tough building to keep operating. I'll do my best for as many years as I possibly can. But I would support this and hope it goes through. And I hope the neighborhood looks at it as a different way. They may be losing a couple of parking spots, but they'll be gaining a building in a vital part of that neighborhood for many, many years to come. And it'll also get the added money that we were talking about that needs to come back into that building and make it what it should be for that neighborhood. It's a beautiful building. Thank you. I appreciate you listening to me.
And Mr. Chairman, we're willing to work with Mr. Fisher in any way possible. As I said before, Mr. Reno, he owns several properties in the area, so he is in that area. He owns properties on 5th Street, so he is in that area as well. So we're willing to work with him in any way or any manner possible to make it work with him. And we did consider this application initially, and we thought about, when we first looked at it, about scaling it back and just asking for the 6 units in the gym and not doing the additional units in the basement, the 3 in the basement. And when we took a look at the finances with Mr. Reno, we looked at it and we we're going to put the capital in this property. It came to a point where we needed those additional units to get the money out to pay for it. And that's the reason why we didn't initially come in and scale it back. But, you know, whatever we can do with Mr. Fisher, you know, we will. 15, he owns 6 units at 15-17 6th Street. Another one, you know, 9 units, another 3 units on 5th Street. So, as I said, Mr. Reno is in the area. So, and he's active and involved in there and cleaning and plowing and taking care of his units, and just as he would with this specific property. And the only other thing I would have to say, it's my understanding that, you know, the members of the Centerville Neighborhood Association that Miss Anne Marie Page lives on Fremont Street, which is just one street up above from this. So it is in the specific vicinity of this property.
I mean, I can understand Mr. Fisher's concerns, and also I think part of his concerns is whether you're gonna keep coming back and adding, and I know that's something that you can't tell us right now.
Well, right now, and I have to tell you, and Mr. Reno can vouch for this, there's an existing basement there, and there's a gymnasium there. That the gymnasium there begs to be developed from the photos that you see. To come back in and ask for additional units would mean that we would have to, and this is a quantum leap. If you went into that building and you saw the size of the hallways there, which are enormous, it would be overreaching for us to go in there and say that we're going to utilize the space of the hallways to reconfigure units. I think it would be fair to say that that would be an application of overreaching on our part, and that's not something that we intend to do. And with respect to the removal of the fire escape, there are two means of egress. You can see there's plans there that show that there's the accesses from the gymnasium. There's stairways on both sides for access. That second page of Mr. Reno's that we have, this is part of the application. If you see the second page there, this is the drawings for the loft areas. You can see on both sides there are stairways. So there's two means of egress there, and certainly they wouldn't be able to get a building permit if they did not have that.
And I know when the matter was approved back in September of 2013, when the condition was receive approval from the fire department. So any condition that, if it was approved tonight, that was put on here this evening, would piggyback on those previous conditions.
That is correct.
As well would be the fire department. Obviously, if they take the fire escape down for a reason, it has to be approved by the fire department.
It's fully sprinkled. The property is fully sprinkled.
And I mean, because if this is a amendment to the previous site plan and special permit, then obviously the previous conditions would stand with any additional conditions that we impose tonight, correct, counsel?
That is correct.
The fire escapes were for the usage of the building when it was a school.
I understand that.
Because it was an auditorium,
Yep,
and the
I get that.
doors that are there now were actually windows at one time, and the windows were purchased for, they just have not been installed for that.
I understand that. I understand you don't only have those on old buildings that, you know, when it was built back then. Okay. All right, so.
Sir, can I say something about the neighborhood group?
Yeah, I mean, they're not here, but you can say what you want about them. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, I don't, but go ahead.
I went to a couple of meetings.
Why don't you come to the microphone so we can hear you? I mean, you can say what you want about them, but go ahead.
I'm gonna be quick.
I'm focusing on the site plan and not necessarily the neighborhood group, but go ahead.
No, well, I just mentioned, well, just let me say this then. I went to a few meetings, and Rick knows I was there, and there was no approval for extra parking, off-street parking, off-property parking at that point. I have not heard anybody knock on my door or gotten a phone call from the neighborhood group as far as the impact on me, and that's all I wanted to say. You can say that they wrote a letter and that they applauded, but they didn't get the input of the immediate abutters, and that's all I wanted to say.
I understand that.
Thank
sir.
you.
And I respect your opinion by being here. I mean, regardless of what this letter says, you come down here and speak as a neighbor and you say it, that I hear you as loud and clear than a piece of paper. Okay, so I respect your opinion much more than as well as a piece of paper written. I mean, I respect everybody who comes here, and my mind hasn't been made up. My mind's never made up coming in. Sometimes I'm leaning in one direction. Sometimes I get swayed the other way. Sometimes I think I'm going to do something, and all of a sudden, all my questions are answered.
Just thank you for letting me speak.
No, I hear you. I mean, is it a butter? I hear you. If I was there, I'd have the same concerns. You know, I mean, our concern is how can, you know, we make the project better and try to save grace with the neighborhood, as well as trying to, you know, if, you know, the developer said sometimes they let some of the neighbors park on their parking there, then maybe they could speak to Mr. Fisher about letting him park there once in a while. If he has some type of, as he says, a wedding, a family function, or something else, if they have additional parking, can we work out agreement? Can I park there for a certain period of time? I know his concern was during the summer and during the winter. I mean, I understand the winter. I mean, the city puts a no parking ban in effect every time we have a snowstorm. everybody's supposed to be off the street. I mean, I understand, I mean, when it comes to the winter, it's, I mean, everybody lose parking spaces. I get that.
Yeah.
I'd like to address the board if it
Sure, if
may.
you could just give us your name,
Yep.
please, sir.
William Reno, Reno Properties.
Thank you.
In respect to what these gentlemen's concerns are, again, I hear them loud and clear, just like everybody else. The other 15 units that I own on Fifth Street didn't have a lot of parking when I bought them, were major issues in the neighborhood. I think I've done an okay job so far of cleaning up, all still a work in progress. But my big thing, again, is every time it snows, people that I know that own other properties drive by and go, what are you doing? I'm out there clearing the sidewalks, clearing the streets, clearing the snowbanks that are on the streets. So the business district literally comes up in front of my 15 units there in parks in front of my building that I clear for the tenants. But again, it's all neighborhood stuff. Everybody on Fifth Street, the lower half anyways, knows me when I come up. Everybody sees me out there shoveling, again, clearing street spots, not just my property. Again, words sometimes are just words, but I'm local. My family business is Kenwood Hardware right down the street. I'm around those areas all the time. I'm plowing. My plow stays on all winter just because when I come by, if there's a spot that's a little snowbank, let me clear it, let me push it, let me get it off the street. Again, I care. So with respect for these gentlemen that weren't at the meetings, by all means, if there's a disconnect with them in the group, I would be more than happy to meet with anybody. Hopefully they can find out again that I am reasonable. I'm not one of those people that comes in, tries to make a buck, gets out of it. Everything I buy, I hold. Again, I'm not going anywhere. I live 5 minutes away, and I work 3 minutes away. So again, like my attorney says, we're more than willing to work with them, truly are. A building can't survive with everybody around them angry. My tenants aren't going to want to be there. So their happiness truly matters to me. So again, if we want to meet afterwards or whatever, again, I clear snow, I do this, I work for the neighborhood. Again, I have just as much a stake in it as they do. I just want to
Appreciate that. I mean,
make that clear.
Really?
I mean, you're a neighborhood person as well as they. I understand that.
Again, yeah, I mean,
You have a little different interest in that, but it's still a neighborhood interest.
well, correct, and that's what I stress at the neighborhood meetings is, again, is I'm here.
Right.
I mean, my hardware store that most of the people in that neighborhood frequent,
It's a lot different than someone coming in from out of town, building it and leaving.
again, I can say it until I'm blue in the face, but my other buildings are the proof. Again, not many people want to invest money on the lower half of Fifth Street and Bridge Street. I'm there. Police told me, you're better off burning it down. I mean, quote. And I'm there. There's good working class people there. There's kids playing in the driveway on their bikes instead of people cleaning up needles on other buildings that I purchased. Obviously, Mr. Underwood's building doesn't need that kind of work, but anything can be better. Anything can be improved. And I mean, that's truly what I do. When I look at this school, I looked at a final reason where I can actually put real money, real high-end type of stuff and get your money back. And having working class, one-bedroom units is only going to benefit that area. That area needs these type of units. It has great single-family homes. Their rental units in that area sometimes are a little bit tougher. This is bringing to that neighborhood what it needs. It brings a mix of all different types of income levels, of housing, of everything. And again, to the gentleman, I just can't stress enough that I care. I'm from the area. This is not somebody coming in and trying to get rich quick. But that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any of the board members have any follow-up comments?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a very important project for the neighborhood. I would be in favor of moving this forward, but taking a closer look at the parking. I think Bob suggested some kind of a study and maybe a parking rearrangement that would support the development. I think the gentleman has made it very clear that it needs additional investment to continue on into the future, and I think that is what we owe the neighborhood.
Thank you. That would be something certainly that we would be interested in looking at as well. As Mr. Malovich mentioned, Myrtle Street is a very wide street.
And it is.
And it's a wide street, and the whole breadth of Myrtle Street, abutting the property, is 240 feet, minus the 20 feet for the entrance area. So it's a substantial area, and if there was angled parking over there, it really could accommodate a lot more. Right now, with the 240 feet, I'd say 10, 11 cars it would accommodate, but with the angled parking, Who knows how much? Could be double that.
Yeah, I mean, how we theoretically do that, I have no idea. That's up to the city.
I think it's through the, it
It's
could be
not-
through the city council, an ordinance through the city
Something that
council.
we can't impose upon, but I understand the concerns, I mean, how it would help the situation. But if that was something that could go forward in the future, obviously it would help. So getting back to what we have tonight, so you have requests for us for this special permit and the site plan, and just one comment I want to make was, when staff was up there, they indicated that your dumpster's not screened, and it has to be.
That certainly will do that.
That was a condition that we, as you know, it's, whether we impose it or not, it's a regulation that has to be done. The board said they visited up there on January 8th and found the dumpster was not currently screened. So that should have been screened as well as when it was approved back in 2013. I mean, that's a standard approval that has to be done by the city, whether we even make that condition or not. So obviously, that's something that has to be done. Yeah, because they went up there and said just last week that it's not screened, so that has to be done. I mean, you know, that's for your own protection. If not, you get rodents in there and everything else.
You gotta have that.
Yeah. So, I mean, let me get back up. So tonight, you're looking for the special permit and the site plan, so we need 2 votes, and then you have to go before the zoning board of appeals on Monday night.
That's
for
correct.
3 types of relief, okay. So regardless of what we do tonight, I mean, if we approve it, it still has to get approval from the zoning board, correct?
That is correct.
For 3 different variances, correct?
Correct.
Gotcha, okay. So tonight, if we have the special permit and the site plan, there was a previous conditions that have been approved back in 2013, so those conditions are still in effect. So whatever the request of the board is tonight, those conditions would still be met with, upon any approval that the board may do tonight, if not, any approval or denial. So what's the request of the board now? Let me take it in 2 different phases. One, we'll take it with the easiest one, which is the site plan, which only needs 3 votes, and then we'll do the special permit that needs the 4 votes. And then what's the request for the site plan approval?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move for site plan approval with all previous conditions from 2013 will stand, and allowing for the additional 9 units.
Could I add, and to work with the neighbors in regards to the parking situation?
Yes,
Definitely.
Okay?
critical.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the site plan made by Mr. Snetsky, seconded by Mr. Malovich, for the conditions of approval and also to work with the neighbors for the parking situation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, chair votes yes. So the site plan is approved. So now we have a special permit. What's the request on the special permit?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the special permit with the same conditions, the previous conditions from 2013 to remain in place, allowing the additional 9 units, and the developer to work with the neighborhood referencing additional parking options.
I'll second.
Motion is made, seconded by Mr. Guys. All in favor, say aye.
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 Chairman votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none. That is approved. So the next release, they have to go to the zoning board of appeals for Monday night, this Monday, correct?
This Monday night,
That's
correct.
gonna be
Okay,
tough.
so wish you well with it. Hopefully it works out, and hopefully you can speak with the neighbors and try to work out. I mean, I can understand your concern, their concern, and hopefully if it's, especially these main 2 abutters here, if you could help give them some relief, that would be great. Wish you well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, counsel. Good luck.
Do you have a cordless, Mike? so what we usually do is just have. Oh, okay.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
So you want to bring that closer, then you want that over here,
Yeah.
so they can see it?
What I'm gonna do is just do some board presentation and do that after a brief overview. Yes, thank you. Ask him permission first. So this is stand here if they like.
Okay.
Just this.
Do you want me to move the stand?
No, we'll ask them what to do and then just.
Dick in there? Huh?
Okay.
Dick go in there? Yeah.
So you're doing side stuff first?
This one.
In your left hand.
Yeah, I'll ask him. I'll be asking his permission first. Okay, thank you. That'd be great, thanks.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have a preliminary site plan application on 850 Lawrence Street. The applicant is proposing to redevelop an existing building and the adjacent parcel into a residential development consisting of 71 dwelling units. This is not a public hearing, it's for informational purposes only, and the board renders no decision. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Brian Bush from Heritage Properties. We're located at 100 Merrimack Street here in Lowell. And with me tonight, I have our counsel, Catherine Flood, Brian Goodrow from Hancock Engineering, who's our consulting engineer, Chris Peterson from my office is at the easel on our development team, and Gavin and Sullivan is the architect on the project. I greatly appreciate you accommodating our request to meet informally. We have submitted to be on the agenda for your February 5th meeting for a public hearing. But we thought we would take the time to introduce the project to you informally this evening.
As you mentioned when you opened this up, we currently have the property under agreement with the current ownership to develop the property at 850 Lawrence Street into residential housing. Our proposal is for 71 apartment units. 68 of those are one-bedrooms, and 3 of them will be studio units. We've worked with Diane Trad and the team at the DPD for the last several months, refining this project, trying to take into consideration some of the issues that go with, redeveloping an old mill property, but also a property that is on an island, creates a little bit of some other constraints. I'll give a brief overview of the project, starting with the site is currently comprised of 2 lots. Chris, if you could just flip to the yellow tab sheet there, please. I think you have reductions of these submittals in your package, but the site is 2 lots bounded in an orange highlighter there. One of them contains the mill building to the south, which is to the right looking at the sheet. And to the north is 852.5 Lawrence Street, and that contains a partial parking lot and then some kind of overgrown woods. The abutters on the property are the city to the north. To the south is the Skagel property, which has been in tax default for a while, that the city has in tax title. The city also owns a strip adjacent on the east side of the 852.5 parcel, and Centennial Island Hydroelectric Power owns a strip that runs on the west side of that. And in the blue highlighter, you can see that on the east it's bounded by the Concord River and the Wamasik Canal to the west, and the Wamasik Canal is what generates the power for Centennial Hydroelectric Power, which is downstream. From you folks, we will be looking for a site plan review and special permit pursuant to sections 11.4 and 8.1 of the zoning code. We were also going to the Zoning Board of Appeals for variances, for 4 variances. The first is lot area per dwelling unit. With a space that we have, 34 units would be allowed. We propose 71. The building's the building. It's 78,000 square feet, so 34 units would really not work very well there. They'd be abnormally large. We're looking for a variance on parking. With 71 units, we would be required to have 2 spaces per unit per your bylaws. We are providing, so that would be 142. We're asking to provide 106 parking spaces, and then 16 banked spaces on the east side of the property. In the parking lot, there's an area where we could make deeper parking spaces. We could park back double-barreled spaces in that area, and we could add 16 spaces. Our proposal to you is to actually design those, but not build them, only build them if we need them. We've managed property in Lowell for 40 years. We have 500 apartment units here in the city. We have 2,000 throughout New England, and we can demonstrate a parking requirement is not that great in the city because your zoning really takes into consideration the parking for a unit, not bedrooms. And what we've found in our experience is that bedrooms is what really drives the parking. And we think we would be adequate at 1.25 spaces per unit. What we're proposing is 1.5. So we do need to go to the ZBA for that. We also need to go to the ZBA for usable open space. 250 square feet per unit is required. We're providing 236. And then for 6 of the units, we also are looking for a variance on the minimum floor area of 750 square feet for studio and 1-bedroom units. The other units would comply. The other 65 units comply. So some of those, in section 8.1 of your zoning, some of those would allow you folks to grant the variance. I believe it's area per dwelling unit and open space, but because we're asking for other variances, we've got to go to the ZBA for all of them. The project will also have to go to the Conservation Commission for approval. The project's eligible for state and federal historic tax credits, as well as HDIP, which is the Housing Development Incentive Program. The city has recently extended their request for housing for the HDIP program to encompass this property. We've had preliminary discussions with Maria Dickinson, and we have a meeting set up with her and Susan LeMay of the Assessors Department to put that ball in motion as well. Let's see. The site's improved by water, sewer, and gas, and our proposed improvements. Chris, if you could flip to the site plan that's colored, please. Other way. Yeah. I think it's the second sheet. Yes, please. So that shows the site as we hope to develop it. The existing buildings on the right. You'll notice the white spur that goes to the west. That's a bridge that crosses from Lawrence Street onto the property. All of the abutters, all the people who are on the island have access to that. There are easements in place for that to be there. That bridge was reconstructed within the last 15 years by the present owner, who had to do an environmental cleanup on the site and couldn't get trucks to haul material out, so they rebuilt that, re-engineered and rebuilt that bridge. You can see the white to the north is parking, and if you look closely, you'll see a gap on the east side of the parking, and that's accommodating the extension of the Concord River Greenway that the city is in the process of approving and I believe has funding. I think Patrick can probably speak more intelligently than I on that, but that the intent is to extend the greenway from the Centennial Island apartments that are to the north, where it currently ends, to extend it up to the property here in question, and then cross the river and connect to the existing greenway that's on the other side that goes out to Lawrence Street. So when the city finishes that greenway project, you'll be able to go from Lawrence Street south of us, where the bridge is currently under construction, to the center of town. We think that's a great amenity for the city, but we also think it's a great amenity for us. It'll make, pedestrian access, exercise. We intend to make this a pet-friendly community because we think it's a good location to have dogs. To be able to go out and walk your dog on a greenway area like that would be a very big benefit. So again, we've worked with the city. There are some cross easements that we would have to execute, and easements that have to be modified for Centennial Hydroelectric Power. We've met with them several times. They're in favor of the project. They're in favor of the greenway extension. So things seem to be coming together at this point. So Chris, if you could put the architectural plan on front. So the current building, in spite of its, so the next one, outside aesthetic is actually very, very structurally sound. And the building hasn't been cut up by a lot of different uses over the years. So we feel pretty fortunate and pretty confident in our abilities to create, some really nice housing there. So this is a rendering from the architect of the exterior of the building. We're going to replace all the windows with historically correct windows. They'll be simulated divided light windows. They'll have arch tops on them. We'll remove the existing loading dock and put a new entryway in the front of the building. And as I mentioned, build some parking, upgrade the drainage and whatnot. The units, most of the units will have very high ceilings, exposed beam, exposed brick. Chris, I think if you flip the next page, you'll get a couple renderings there. One more page. So this is showing a couple different elevations, and then in the top right-hand corner, you can see a typical living room and kitchen layout. There's two of these window bays that will be in pretty much every one of the living rooms, and one window bay in every bedroom. And we think it's going to create some really nice spaces. The amenities that we include in the building, we're going to have indoor bike storage. We'll have a package and delivery, secure package and delivery room for folks. We'll have a dog wash room. co-work space for people who work at home, that they could go down and you know, use some desk space and that kind of thing, and Wi-Fi to work from a room there, a community room with TV and couches and the like, and a property management office on site. And as I said, another, you know, very big amenity is the Greenway extension. We recently received, yesterday I believe, we received comments from Christine McCall with comments from department heads that we've circulated to the engineering firm, Hancock, and to Gavin and Sullivan. There's nothing there that we're not ready to address before the public hearing. In addition, we have scheduled a meeting with the abutters for next Wednesday night at our office to informally review the plan with them in advance of the public hearing. So we notified everybody by mail who was on the abutter list so that we can, you know, hopefully get their feedback and maybe in a less formal environment deal with any concerns that they may have. So that's 6 o'clock next week. And I believe we're going to be in front of you folks on the 5th of February for a public hearing. I have one other little video, and then I'll turn it over to questions from you or the public, however you choose to run that. We can direct questions to Catherine and Brian as well. So this is something our architect did. It's a little work in progress, but you can, Chris, you might want to just move that easel out of the way for this, if you wouldn't mind. So this is the front of the building, looking at it from Lawrence Street with a new entryway. A very big pavilion there, so they're actually big enough for a fire truck to get in. And now you're starting to look from the north. That's the bridge that comes from Lawrence Street. There's an existing entry on that side of the building that's going to be reconfigured from what it currently is. And then this is starting to look southerly on the Concord River. You can see the little outbuilding there. That's actually something that we're going to try to make an outside community space. We're still working with our historic consultant on that. And then this is the view from the site at the existing Greenway location that goes out to Lawrence Street. So that's the rear of the building. So there's still some details to work out in terms of landscaping and the like, but that's way over my head as far as something that I create. I thought it was pretty cool that the architects did that. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to take questions or concerns.
Thank you. Any of the board members have any questions?
I have a couple of things. The fire lane turnaround area,
Yes.
can you run us through that? That could be potentially very important.
Yeah, so Brian, do you want to speak to that? Chris has that colored site plan there.
So are you going to meet with the fire department before you come before us? I mean,
Absolutely.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
speaking to that comment that Christine
I mean, because
McCall-
anytime the site plan is, you know, you've been here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Plenty of times, right? You know that we have to get okay by the fire department.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're going over a bridge, you know.
Understood. So we've actually met with the fire department a couple of times prior to development of the site plan that you see before you. So we've gone through iterations before we ended up where we are today. And we've had those discussions, so now it's just kind of looping back around to make sure that we address any other further comments that they have. So the fire turnaround, if you look at the kind of left-hand side of the page, there's a big square area that allows for a tower apparatus, the largest apparatus that the Lowell Fire Department has, to do essentially a three-point turn, where they'll drive down the drive out, maneuver in reverse, and then be able to loop back around and drive out the normal way, essentially. And then the two spurs that are around the building, kind of to the left-hand side and to the south, have also been designed according to fire code standards. They're 20 feet in length. They're not longer than 150 feet to allow for the apparatus to reverse maneuver and then exit across the bridge. And then, as Brian had indicated, the bridge has been evaluated by a structural engineer to be able to carry the weight, the 73,000 pounds, however heavy that actual apparatus is. So from our perspective, I think we've already really taken into account the concerns that they have, and now, again, it's just looping back around.
So by them putting that new bridge in before helps your situation for the fire truck?
It does.
So will there be hydrants on site? I mean, in the
we
building
haven't-
sprinkled, I imagine.
The building will be sprinkled. We have not indicated any fire hydrants, but obviously if the fire department chooses to locate a couple of those, they'll be provided.
Either that, they'll pump it right out of the Concord if they have to.
Correct, put a boat right in the river.
They will, I mean, they with the pumps. But
But I just want to make a comment about your historic, you have an historic consultant.
Yes.
I chair the city's historic board.
Yes.
And we'd be more than happy to work with you. I know Windows, we've got a lot of expertise and a lot of resources to help you out in any way, to give that historic look to that building and maintain that.
Okay, yeah, as I was remiss in mentioning that.
Did work through Patrick, with Jared, or
Yeah, so we've actually touched base with Steve Stoll on this. Yes.
I thought you probably
It's, yeah, it's unusual in that this is eligible for historic tax credits, but it's outside the city's historic district. But we did touch base with Steve, we forwarded him plans. We got recent state approval on the Part 1 of the historic tax credits. And they actually commented that they would like to make sure that the city of Lowell is involved, the historic commission is involved in that review and kept it. We have, we did a couple projects downtown, Waller's Lofts and 100 Merrimack Street and 45 Middle Street. So we've worked with Steve on those projects before. We have a good working relationship with him. Happy to take on any comments that you have.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just, especially on that map, I think it would be easier to visualize. 'Cause I thought it was interesting you offered the possibility of configuring for the additional, 16 additional spots, but not necessarily requiring it, but having it as if it's needed, you would already have it built into your design. Could you just, on that map, just kind of show
you
that?
what
Because I know on the other map, it was actually, it's pretty busy, and I was just trying to visualize what you were, what you were, yes.
Are actually on a civil plan, are actually designed and rated so that they could be extended, so that you can prioritize back to back. So if you have a husband and wife or a roommate situation, those spaces, instead of being
Great idea.
unassigned, would be assigned, and they would be able to park two cars.
So you're talking stack parking, oh, okay, I was trying to visualize what you were trying to explain, okay.
So, I don't think that's recognized officially
Right.
by your regulations.
Right.
You know, but I think I can tell you from a landlord's perspective that if we have a parking problem, we are gonna wanna do something about that, you know, long before anybody else. And if we thought we needed it, we'd build it. But like I said, I'm confident, based on, you know, what we do, that we'll be fine here. And, you know, again, we're on the bus route, we're trying to encourage bicycles. I mean, we've seen a tremendous increase in bicycling across, you know, across New England in terms of rental housing. I mean, it's just become a, you know, viable, places where we never had bike racks, we've got 20 bikes, you know. So I really, I'm confident that we're not gonna need that parking, but it's there kind of to alleviate any.
Okay, no, I was trying to visualize when you said that.
Yeah,
and,
I think I called it double barreled. I don't know what the real name, what's the real name for that? Stacked.
Okay, all right, great, thank you very much, thank you.
Anybody else have any comments?
Yes.
Jordan, go ahead.
Quick comment. I would think a top priority would be keeping intact the historic nature of the building. I myself have spent many hours at Romalo's West End Gym, so it's a very important building to me, and it's bittersweet to see it go, but I do love what I see, so.
Yeah, if I can say, that's probably the only drawback to redeveloping is trying to relocate Romalo's. I mean, you know, when we got this under agreement, the night we got under agreement, I watched The Fighter again just to get psyched up. You know, he's done great things with people who are at risk, and boxing's a big deal in Lowell. It's part of the fabric of the city, and you know, the broker who sold the building, you know, made a commitment to work with him to try to relocate that, and I certainly hope that they do.
He has relocated before.
Oh, yeah.
I believe they're looking at other locations as we speak, so hopefully they'll keep it going, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Mr. Snetsky?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Who owns the bridge?
That's a good question. The bridge is actually owned by Centennial Hydroelectric Power, and there's an easement over it for everybody who's an owner of that island. However, when the new bridge was built, there was an additional easement granted to construct a bigger bridge, and so. And the additional easement doesn't have the same language that the original easement does. So most of the burden for that is going to fall to us if we develop this, because that's how the new easement is written, and that is how people are going to come and go. So, but the owner is Centennial Hydroelectric Power.
Okay, and the parking to the right as you come over the bridge, who does that belong to?
There's parking before you get over the bridge.
Or perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, so that's...
the right of the bridge.
To the right of the bridge. There's two condominium projects there. They're on the plan. I've forgotten the name of them exactly. But the condominium project to the right, to the south, Chris, it's coming, yep. So, and then keep your hand going to the right of the page. You'll see the roof of the building. Oh, yeah. So that's the parking for that southerly condominium development.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Now, I saw in one of the sets of comments that some of the property abutting yours is owned by the city of Lowell?
That's correct.
Do you have any intention of trying to use any of that, or have any need for using that?
We do. So to the east, along the Concord River, we have an easement. We're going to have an easement there for drainage. The drainage, there's a small detention basin that is in that area there beyond the stacked parking. That's going to handle a roof runoff. And then there's also an easement in that same area for the dumpster to be located. And then to the north, when we were originally designing the project, we wanted to relocate the curve on the Concord River Greenway before it goes over the bridge so that it would be of minimal impact, and that was largely because of the current owner. The engineer for the city on the Greenway was against that because they wanted to design that curve for a bicycle traveling 12 miles an hour. So what the planning department said is, how about if we extend your parking and your fire lane turnaround to the north on city property? I met with a city manager, and Diane Trad has as well, to float that balloon, and the city, at least the people we've talked to, are on board with that. And in exchange, we will grant the easement for the trail to be constructed, and also relocate Centennial Hydroelectric Power's easement that goes north, because the Greenway Park cuts his easement off. So we have to give him an easement over our property to make up for what the city cannot provide now.
Thank you. I was just trying to get a feel
Yeah, it's a
for
little,
the
there's some moving
focus
parts
there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bob, any questions?
I have no questions, but I like what I see. I think this is going to be a great development.
So we'll see you February 5th?
Yes, thanks again for your time. I
No,
really
no problem,
appreciate
no
that.
problem. Good luck with it. Good luck.
Thank you.
We'll see how it is. Gonna need a few easements. Have the lawyers write those easements up.
I got the lawyers are gonna be busy.
Yeah. They're worth their money, believe me. Being one of 4 lawyers in the family.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. That'd be great. That would, look forward to that.
So what? Sure, yeah. Sure. That'd be good to have, yeah. 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 You can give it to staff. Oh, yeah. That's the easement plans?
Excuse me?
Sure. Yeah, give them that, and when they give us our package, they'll give it there. If not, we'll have to be stuck in tonight's paperwork. Thank you. Good night, thank you. It'll be interesting, huh?
I tried to call him before I left for Christmas holiday.
So moving along, we're gonna take care of, which I skipped over earlier, was the minutes for the previous minutes. So we have, requests for minutes of July 17th. Any of the board members have any questions or comments on them?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 17th as presented.
Second motion.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Chair votes yes. Those minutes are approved. July 19th? Any questions on those? If not, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
those matters are approved.
Excuse me.
Let's see, August 21st.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
9/21.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, those approved. And finally, October 16th.
Mr. Chairman, there was only 3 of us present, so I'll make a motion to
When
approve.
you were sick.
Yeah, so I'm not going to vote on that. I wasn't here, but,
I do not believe I was here as well.
oh, so it'd be the 3 gentlemen who were here.
I think Jordan was here.
Actually, yes, I was.
Jordan was one of the few that was here, yes. We were at the big table that evening.
That was so
Okay, so Jordan
unusual.
seconds that one. Yeah.
Second.
We had previous ones on those, and then they were amended, so we approved those. So all the minutes have been approved, and good job on the minutes. Thank you very much. So far, next meeting, February 5th, we have this. Pre-app for, yeah.
Reunion, oh, jeez, gonna miss that.
And what's the other one? Okay. Yeah, okay. Was there one of the? Oh, yeah. Okay, so, okay.
That's the church.
The extension won't take long, so what,
That one I got.
Church on Merrimack Street.
oh, on the extension, I plan to take that first. Yeah, so that won't take long. The other 2 will.
Yeah.
So no need of keeping the developer long for that. Yeah. Okay, so we can put that on the agenda that way, if you don't mind. If not, I'll just ask to waive the reading and go forward that way, so.
And I have to recuse myself on that one. And
On the extension?
Yeah, and I know Jordan did not vote on that initially, so just to make sure.
Okay.
Again, I don't know if any board members aren't planning on being here, just.
Okay. All right. Thank you both, gentlemen, and,
Mr. Chairman?
go right ahead. Yep.
No, we all received this from DPD, but I just thought it would be good to mention the Lowell Open Space Plan kickoff meeting, January 24th at 6 to 8 p.m. at the Senior Center at 276 Broadway Street in Lowell. I just laugh. I attended, the last one I attended, Christine Thomas was the environmental officer for the city, so I started thinking about that. Was a few years ago. So was that the last one, I think, or was that, has there been, there's been a subsequent, yeah, that's what Yeah, so, so anyways, just to anybody that's interested, I know it's open to the public, and I think it's always helpful to get as many different views on the importance of open space, especially for a city our size with as little land as we have. So it's just critical to have people participate. Thank you.
Any other board members have any follow-up comments?
No historic board activity at all. Our next meeting is February 12th.
Mr. Chairman, the snow we had yesterday caused the cancellation of the NEMCOG meeting for last night, so it's a report from NEMCOG.
So no further updates, would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good night, we are adjourned, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah.